Good morning, and in some cases, good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar on ESS BIZGrants. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are around Australia. During this webinar, which will last about 30 minutes, if you have any specific questions, can you please type them in, and in webinar jargon, raise your hand, and I will answer the questions towards the end of the webinar. If you think of some questions later on that you'd like us to comment on, you can send me an email and we'll take it from there. So ESS BIZGrants is obviously a product that you're subscribing to. So when you first go onto the website, this is what you receive. There is some examples of how to undertake the work. But what I think we'll do is just go straight into the actual site. So obviously we've already logged on, and there is some discussion there on how you go about creating the client profile. But before we go into there, we might just have a look at grants. If you're interested in the grants that are in the system, you want to read something about them, if you just pull up grants and then click on the name of the grant, you'll get a synopsis of what that particular grant is about. You don't have to close that. You can just keep on going until you see another one. If you want to check what that grant's about, you can, and so on. But the details on the grants become far more obvious once you get into a client profile. Now, with the client profile, what I'm bringing up on the screen now is a blank one, and I'll show you a partly completed profile in a moment. But our recommendation is that you insert the name of the client. But if you've got some concerns about client names being displayed in cloud technology, that you use a reference number. Remember that when you enter the details, you need to identify the corporate structure that relates to this particular client. There is no doubt that from a government point of view, both state and federal, the most popular entity is a company, but you can obtain for some grants access if you're in one of these other type of entities. The key question which we have then relate to exporting and importing of products. What we're trying to do there is to get a linkage to some specific grants for both of those activities. Number of employees is important for a number of grants, primarily in the state and territories. Do you have an ABN? The grants within ESS BIZGrants have been included on the basis that they are suitable for small, medium enterprises. So if you have a client who does not have an ABN, then you will not be shown any particular grants for that client, because the assumption is that every business that is trying to access these grants that we have listed within ESS BIZGrants is in fact an entity which would have an ABN, because to get grants for small businesses you need to have an ABN. The years that the business has been operating are important. There is virtually no startup grants anymore. Someone contacted me recently and said, what grants are there for startups? And the question related to a grocery store that the owner had for 6 months. Well, the short answer was there are none for that type of business. The only potential way they could have got a grant is if they were located in a remote area and had a turnover of over $750,000. Because in a remote area, any type of business is eligible for a Enterprise Connect grant so long as the turnover exceeds $750,000 and so long as the business has been operating for 3 years. So really the only businesses that can expect to get any sort of government support as startups are companies who have spent more than $20,000 on research and development, and businesses that have undertaken the development of a new product, process or service that might be eligible for the Commercialization Australia grants, potentially skills and knowledge or proof of concept. But other than those, and perhaps Export Market Development Grant, I forgot that, Export Market Development Grant doesn't say the company has to be in operation for a period of time. And in fact, if you're looking at Export Market Development Grant, there's a strange misnomer there. Their first year of claim can in fact be 2 years, so you can combine the eligible Export Market Development expenditure for 2 years to meet the minimum expenditure requirement of having spent in excess of $20,000 on eligible marketing activities to be eligible for the Export Market Development Grant. But other than those items, I really can't think of any others that are there for startups. Most of them are looking at 3 years. A couple of the territory ones, Northern Territory, are only 2 years in business. Some are 4 years in some of the states. Annual turnover is important, both for minimum and maximums, and the only time you need to be extremely careful on that is when they're approaching one of the cut-off or change figures. Obviously with research and development, the $20 million figure is very important because there is a completely different set of circumstances applicable to a company with a turnover under $20 million to those which apply to a company with a turnover in excess of $20 million. Annual expenditure, the reason we have that question in there is because it is a key area in the Enterprise Connect grants. Enterprise Connect has this concept of either having a turnover or expenditure exceeding a stated amount. So if it's a manufacturing business, the stated amount is $1.5 million. If it's a clean technology business, the stated amount is $1 million. So you could have a situation with a manufacturing business that's got virtually no turnover, indeed no turnover, but has spent more than $1.5 million in the year in activities such as research and development, pilot plant construction, patent attorney advice. That type of activity could make the business potentially eligible for an Enterprise Connect grant. And just to comment on Enterprise Connect, it's undoubtedly the largest individual numbers of grants that have been issued, and they're all targeted at small businesses. So we've got minimum turnovers of around 1 to 1.5 million, depending which industry, and there are 12 industries now contained within the Enterprise Connect grant field, and with an upper turnover of $100 million. I was speaking to some people from Enterprise Connect a couple of days ago. They are fully in business, they've assured me, so that whilst the government's inquiry into the financial situation is getting put together, they're continuing to be assessing business and issuing grants. That's not quite the same in Commercialization Australia. As I understand what's happening there, they are continuing to accept applications, and their next full board meeting's early in December. So if you've got someone who you think should be submitting a Commercialization Australia application, you need to get the process well underway, because their applications have a cut-off date of about 6 weeks prior to a board meeting, so that the case managers can assess the application and submit the report to the directors. But the story from Commercialization Australia is that they're not actually funding any new grants at this stage, so it'll be interesting how that works out. Are you registered for GST? Again, the answer needs to be yes. It's a bit like the ABN question. For small businesses, they have to have registration for GST, and if not, no grants will be shown for them. And the same thing applies for tax exempt. If you're acting for a charity or not-for-profit, please don't use ESS BIZGrants, because if you answer this question that they are tax exempt, well, no grants will be shown to you. The question there about research and development is really to trigger the obvious one, the research and development rebate, but also to give us a clue or a lead into have the system have a look at their potential eligibility under Commercialization Australia. Commercialization Australia is a large grant broken into 4 components. You've got skills and knowledge, whereby a grant of up to $50,000 on an 80% grant basis, that's the best grant available in Australia, is available to assist with market research, intellectual property searches, patent attorneys' advice, business plan preparation, training of the company for investment presentations, that type of thing. They can apply for proof of concept, which is taking a product or a prototype and looking at what has to be done to it to make it market ready. In most cases that can be a long and fairly extensive process. The grants run from $50,000 to a maximum of $250,000 and covers a range of activities, including salaries of the key people employed by the entity involved in the project, including working directors. So it can be a very attractive grant for any of your clients who are trying to develop new products. I have a couple of 3 businesses currently in various stages of proof of concept, and we are hoping to finalise another application tomorrow, and the grant funds are in the vicinity of $300,000 all up in that application, so it's a fair bit of work being done. And you can apply for both skills and knowledge and proof of concept in one application if you wish. They also have experienced executives, so if you've got a client who has developed a new product, process or service that needs some assistance in the introduction of high-level commercial skills, a CEO type person, then there is a grant of up to $175,000 on a 50-50 basis for 2 years. So in fact, the company could obtain a grant of $350,000. Now, where this does come into play, and this is hopefully some background information to assist you in making BIZGrants really work for you, if you've got a client who has developed a new product, process or service, and you have some potential investors, business angels, who are saying they might be interested, but they're a bit apprehensive about the management skills of the main inventor. He might be or she might be a great inventor of a product, but have they got the necessary skills to develop a business that's going to start selling a few $1 million of this product each year, and having it develop to a situation where an attractive exit can be achieved for both the inventor, entrepreneur, and the investors. In some cases they'll be saying, well, we'd only be interested if an experienced CEO was running the business. And what you might be able to do then is have a conversation with those investors and indicate to them that your client would be happy to appoint a CEO, and if some of their capital injection could be used to be the matching funds against the the Commercialization Australia experienced executive funding. And it's really the way a lot of that funding has been handled. So the entrepreneur, the inventor, in most cases don't have a lot of money by the time they get to this stage, and it can be one of the conditions that they might be able to negotiate with a potential investor that can help get them actively involved in the project. So that might be of assistance to you. The other one in Commercialization Australia is what's called early stage commercialization. This is grants of $50,000 to $2 million. Now, if you go to the CA website, you'll notice that there's quite a number of companies listed there who have been granted funds under early stage commercialization, grants ranging from a bit over $1 million up to $2 million. So when you realise that that's only half the cost, it's a fairly big project. I've been involved in one of those. The grant's about 1.4 million. And if you've got a client that's involved in medical type research, this is the grant that will assist them because it's long lead times in that area. But also someone that might have to build a pilot plant to prove a product to a potential customer. This is the real reason that the early stage commercialization grant as part of Commercialization Australia was developed. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. That last question there, are there concerns about the financial vulnerability of the business? It's drafted to suit a bureaucrat. The government hates giving grants to businesses that within a very short period of time have a receiver or a liquidator appointed. So really that's the purpose of the question. So it's not that someone's having some short-term cash flow problems or their debtors days outstanding 62 days. It's really, is there real issues with the business? If you answer yes, well, you won't be shown any grants because that's the attitude of the government departments. If they believe there's financial vulnerability, they will not recommend a grant. Now, we can't go any further, as those of you who have already started using the system will know. So we're just going to go back and I'm going to find a client profile that I've been working on I started this one for the ATSA conference, which I spoke at in Brisbane a couple of weeks ago. So this one we called the company Eastern Steel Fabrication. We said it was a company. They export, they import, 18 employees. They've been in business for 13 years, 4.2 million turnover. So, and they do some research and development. We've already inserted their address details, and we decided in recognition of Hawthorn winning the AFL flag, we'd make it in Hawthorn. When you enter the postcode, the system will decide the location type. One thing I should mention to you, we are currently working on version 2 of ESS BIZGrants, and there's going to be some changes. That wording on financial vulnerability is going to be made a little bit clearer, so everyone clearly understands it's more from a government's point of view. The location types are being changed because there's been some changes in how various government departments are handling those. They're generally now all based on the health industry maps of Australia, but some new categories have been introduced there. So we now have inner metropolitan, outer metropolitan, inner regional, outer regional, remote and very remote, and they're going to be the new codes you see coming up. In lots of cases they won't apply to most grants, but grants that have particular requirements for those zonings will obviously be routed around to suit the location classification. The financial details are a repeat of what we've already got in version 2. You won't be getting that. The business and industry profile, you need to determine which type of business, and these are the selections you've got under the Australian and New Zealand industrial classifications. You can go on then and select the industry that applies. You can have more than one industry, so you could have a client in more than one industry, and obviously you could have a client that's in more than one business category, and if so, you just put them in separately. If you're unsure, you can go on to the website of the Australian Bureau of Statistics and look at the detail of the Australian and New Zealand industrial classifications and work out which one relates to this client. In version 2, we are making a major change in this area. We have gone through and allocated the Taxation Office business codes, not the ANZIC codes, the Taxation Office, which is basically the same code with 2 extra digits added to it, and have more up-to-date industries or businesses listed. We're going to use those in an attempt to zero in more accurately on individual grants, because one of the problems we've got is there's a definition of manufacturing industry, but a manufacturing industry can cover a range of different grants. We've got grants for footwear, clothing and textiles. That's a manufacturing business. We've got grants for clean technology, which can be virtually any type of business. We've got grants for businesses that are metal fabricators, which comes under manufacturing. And we've got various apprenticeship grants under the skills needs list, which are also for different types of manufacturing components. So we're hopeful that by utilising the codes, it will allow you to zero in a lot better on grants, and you'll only get the grants that are very realistic for that type of business. If we then go to search, what you obtain is a pending list of this particular business. Now, if I can just go back to what's happened up to this stage, our recommendation is that you insert that key profile data for each of your business clients at some stage to start the process. Now, that could be at this time of the year as you're completing the annual financial accounts for that client, that you have someone put the data in that I've just summarised to this stage. Our thinking is that that will take about 6 minutes for someone who has a basic knowledge of who that client is. When you get into the area that we're now at, it will require someone with a bit more knowledge of the client, possibly the manager, to go through and enter the data. You could do this part of the work with the client sitting there with you if you wish. That's up to you. But we think it would take another 6 to 10 minutes for someone to do the analysis on the various grants that are available so that you can present a potential grant report to your client. So we've already been using this client as such and going through looking at various grants that are available to them. Now, some of the clean technology ones are got a big question mark over them at present with the government. So these are the grants that the system has identified that could be of benefit for this business. Now, I've already gone through and selected about 10 or 11 of these grants in a previous demonstration of this using this client. So if you don't mind, we'll just pick a grant so you can see how the system works. So this is a manufacturing business that we've picked the defence industry, so it's an Enterprise Connect program. When you click onto the name of the grant, you get the detailed synopsis of what this grant's about. If you click on the funding details, you will see the funding details that do apply. And there are two components to Enterprise Connect grants. We have this one here, which is a grant to assist in the funding of a university graduate. A lot of people don't know this one exists or forget about it. So if you've got a client who has developed a process or a product or has identified changes that they want made in their workshop, or it's a computer type problem that they need someone to come in and work for them, as long as that the business in conjunction with the Enterprise Connect Business Advisor selects a university graduate from a university or research organisation, then Enterprise Connect will fund up to $50,000 on a 50% of the salary for that particular person to work for that client. So it can be a great way of making sure something happens. The other part of the Enterprise Connect is the tailored advisory service. This is a grant of up to $20,000 on a 50% basis that basically enables a company to undertake any sort of work which will improve the business's performance. Now there's some work there that accountants could perform, such as business plans, strategic plans, debtors analysis, risk management analysis, human resources systems, facilitating management meetings once a month for 6 months. There's some of the tasks that I've been involved in, or I know that people who are accountants have been involved in for their clients. So Enterprise Connect is a great grant that you might be able to obtain some work for within your own firms, which I believe you'd probably be interested in. If you want to know a bit more about the material, you can go to Grant Toolkit and you can download the material that's there. So this first one is a paper on how Enterprise Connect operates. So if you or your colleagues wanted to know more about how this grant works, you could read that before your client comes in, or you could print this for the client so the client could read it so that they have a clear understanding of the system. There's also some other notes there which you also might find interesting. We then go into this additional criteria question. So what we tried to do with that initial 18 questions in that initial part of the profile was to narrow the parameters. It's not possible to have all the questions there because there's over 1,000 questions in the entire system. So we then need to ask some additional questions. So if we just go through these, and I'll show you how they work. Has the company previously received a business review funded by Enterprise Connect? Now, if I answer yes, the system is going to say we're ineligible because you can only receive a business review by Enterprise Connect on one occasion. So that if we went back to results at that stage, under the potentially ineligible, there's one we did the other day with some other groups, you've then got this defence industry one. But let's say we're going to go back to there and we decide we made a mistake and we change it and we say no, we've never got that grant. Now the system is still going to say we're ineligible until we work our way through the other questions. Does the company provide or has the capacity to provide defence specific goods or services in a supply chain which leads to a Department of Defence? Now that can be anywhere, so it could be the New Zealand Department of Defence, which the client's working with, so we'll say yes to that. Has the company's revenue been over $1.5 million? We'll say yes. Has the company operated in Australia and lodged business activity statements for the last 3 years? We'll say yes. Now what the system has now done is told us we are now eligible. If we'd answered that question up there correctly by answering no in the first place, we would have had eligible coming up right through the process. But we're potentially eligible for that grant. If you wanted to apply and have a look at the application form, you can click on Apply Now, and that will take you to the Enterprise Connect website where you could go through the application process. If we go back to results, within potentially eligible, I've done a few more than 10, I said 10 before, we've now got 16 in there, and there's a whole stack of these other businesses that I went through before. And there's the Defence Industry Enterprise Connect program that we've just looked at. So to give you an example how all that works, then, if you wish to, you're in a situation you can produce your final report for your client. The report will come out with the name of the client, in this case Eastern Steel Fabrication. Prepared by would be your name, the name you've lodged into the system when you subscribe to ESS BIZGrants. And the report then will give you a synopsis of what the grant's about and will show the funding amounts. And you could, if you wish, add to this the printout of the paper, the article which we've produced on that particular grant. So it's telling them a bit about the grant and the amount of money involved. There is a disclaimer at the bottom of each page. It's basically saying that whilst the system is saying they're potentially eligible, they need to go through the application process with the government department. In version 2, your name will also appear on that disclaimer. So space has been left for the name of the licensee to use the product's name to automatically come up in the disclaimer area. So that's the report that you could then have produced. So you could have a conversation with your client, show the client that you've identified these grants. In this hypothetical case here, we've got 16. Well, I don't know if you normally have that many, but there's a number of grants there that you could discuss with your client. And basically our recommendation is what you're then attempting to do is to have the client say, yes, I'm very interested. Some unfortunately will say they're not interested. I'm interested. The question then is the client going to do the application, or do they want you to? On our research, most of the clients are asking the accountant to then proceed with the application, and that's when you'd be informing the client that you're now going to create a separate fee file, and you'll be billing the client separately for the assistance that's required to obtain the government grant. And you would then proceed with the application process going to the appropriate government department. So that's how ESS BIZGrants works. As we come across new grants, we're installing them into the system, and obviously expired grants are being withdrawn from the system. We just keep them in the back office area because some of the grants get reinstated later on by the government or a new government. So that's how the system works. I can't see that we have any questions. Are there any questions anyone wants to type in? If you think of a question later on, you could send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, and we will get an answer back to you. I hope you're able to fruitfully utilise ESS BIZGrants within your offices so that you can be seen to be very proactive in the marketplace out of utilising this product. We believe it's a great way to start offering business advisory services type products to your clients, and there is a great need for it because some businesses are securing considerable sums of money each year for their clients from government grants, whereas many others are not doing so. So thank you very much for participating in this webinar today. I hope you have a good day, and as I said before, if you do have any questions, could you please send them through to us.